Alright, I am back with another Destiny 2 video in the wake of the raid race and all the drama that it brought. Team Nuts, which Bungie refuses to say their name on social media, ended up being world's first after, man, I don't know how long it was. I think it's the third longest raid ever, and that is with some of the beefiest bosses we have ever seen, which resulted in a lot of controversy. A lot of top players are saying like they really love the raid, they really love the challenge. However, damage on these bosses appeared to have been so high that, or health on them have been so high that you needed to loadout swap essentially to do the max amount of damage you needed to clear a lot of these, like 95% of the time. That being tuned that high meant that console players were at a massive disadvantage because it is very not easy to loadout swap there. So that has led to Bungie actually issuing a statement on this, because there's this big question about whether this boss level health was bugged or if it was intentional. And then it kind of extends to the rest of the game, where people have noticed that other boss health is far more than it used to be. And there's just, I'm not even covering just the boss health thing, because there's a lot of things that are apparently broken here. Some may be purposeful decisions that we just don't know about, but some like literally seem broken. I will start with the Destiny 2 team tweet about this. I'm not going to go into the thing about you're looking at reward quality, where if you beat on contest, you were getting tier 1 gear with like 54 stats, which obviously sucks. Like, you need to complete challenges and stuff to raise your tier, but like, come on, that should have dropped much higher stuff. The first part of this. Hey all, we enjoyed watching the Desert Perpetual World first raid and contest attempts completions throughout the weekend, but also want to let everyone know we are tracking feedback items and issue reports that have been coming in from the community. If you higher priority raid conversations we are looking into this week. Power deltas for the contest raid difficulty. We are seeing reports of enemies being at higher delta than what the activity advertises. For example, enemies have a skull icon next to them instead of a sword. We will investigate. Number 2, your PC crashes after 5+ hours with certain hardware configurations. I think that's high-end hardware. That's been happening for a long time. Rally flags, not fully refreshing ammo and abilities consistently. That's a fun bug that you want to have during a raid race. Feedback we're seeing, some players are concerned that clearing this content required loadout swapping, lengthy add clear phases to stockpile ammo, and near perfect execution. Related, some players feel contest difficulty may have been tuned too high for this raid, so that only an incredibly small portion of the community could have a shot at completing it. Initial note, while we wish for contest mode to challenge your loadouts, your teamwork, and your puzzle-solving abilities, the highest end of damage has been reported to feel that requires far more than expected. That's kind of weird. I don't know. It requires more than expected. Each raid we've shipped has been unique, especially at contest difficulty. This will continue, and for our players who desire challenge, do not worry. We will continue to offer it. That said, we will use feedback from this weekend to inform our future as we continue to develop these experiences. AKA, it won't be this hard next time. But I don't... Okay, so Power Delta is bugged in some regards here because enemies are skulls, which they're not supposed to be skulls. They're supposed to be swords, which is like a lesser tier of Delta. But like, if the normal enemies were skulls, why wouldn't the bosses also be too high of a delta by accident, seemingly by accident, because they're saying that the skull thing is an accident? So I don't, why would that not translate into boss health also? But they're saying that it was tuned that high, apparently on purpose. So this remains kind of unclear to me as to what's happening. Another part of this is what was happening with player damage. There were these reports about how players would have to re-instance, like reload back into the encounter, and then that would increase their damage sometimes if they were stuck doing too low of damage. I heard that mentioned by a number of people. That is not addressed here one way or the other. And then in terms of this boss health thing, this appears to be like something that's happened wider across more pieces of content than just contest mode in this raid. Maybe not normal mode of this raid specifically. I haven't heard as many complaints about that, but like, I'm seeing people be like, yeah, we went and played this dungeon again, and this boss that we used to easily one phase is now taking, 2, 3, 4 phases, and it's just like why is that? Did they do that on purpose? Like, they did change how damage works, they changed linear scaling, but like, is the point to make, I mean, that's not even relevant content anymore, really. Like, to just quadruple or, triple or quadruple the amount of damage you need to take on those bosses? Like, do they want, that much of an increase in boss health, or is that bugged? And even in some other aspects, like, if you're getting like mythic tier, like an orange bar enemy has just like the most health you've ever seen in many instances. And it feels like something is wrong here past, oh, you just need the tier bonus for 10% more damage or whatever it is. And it feels like something is broken with either boss health or player damage in some of these instances, some of these difficulty levels past what just happened in contest. It's not even clear yet what happened in contest. I'm not even sure they know. I think they need like kind of to regroup and say something, but it's kind of all over the place. Like, oh, these enemies were too high of a delta. I've heard like QA said that like, oh, we just did it as high as we thought people could clear, so it was on purpose. So it's very strange. The other part of this is what's happening. There are just so many scattered bugs generally with things being broken and being soft locked and all this stuff. But one that is related to how gameplay feels is there's sort of been this elaborate study on what Bungie said that old baseline values would be for cooldowns and what they actually are. Like, because they changed all the stats around, they're like, okay, well, we don't want to totally trash cooldowns, so this level of stats is going to produce this level of cooldown, and then once you go over this, it'll be shorter than it was before. But at like the lower levels, it appears to be bugged to the point where like it's just not what they said. Like, if they said it was 70% or 80% or whatever, it's like 50%. And I don't know if you've been playing the game, at least at these kind of earlier levels here, but ability cooldowns are horrific. Like, if you are not over whatever tier, the scaling, if you're like at 50 or whatever, like lower than that, is like I really never seen this before. And granted, you can be like, oh, we'll just get it over that tier, but like if it's bugged to be lower than it should be, it just makes the whole thing feel worse. And be like, you don't have infinite stats to invest in everything in order to get it to the whatever threshold for it to feel normal again. Because you got to sink stats into weapons and stuff like that. That seems very mandatory. And like, yeah, you can spec really hard into one or two of the ability things, but leaving the other ones behind, they're going to feel awful. Once you get over a certain tier, yeah, and tier 4 and 5 gear or whatever will probably negate that, but people are logging in and just being like, man, this feels infinitely worse than before. That's true past just the ability cooldowns, but that's kind of a topic for another day, where the same builds just feel much, much worse logging into the new content in a way that's not just like, oh, things got harder. Bungie responded to that, and they said that like they're looking into it, like, thanks for the feedback. People made these like really long, elaborate charts about like how this is not working. And if you've just played, you can very much see how it's not working. It's not like you can't make builds eventually to get low cooldowns on things and get your grenade back every, I don't know, fast or whatever. But if you're not speccing into this stuff, like I'm playing an entire legendary mission and getting maybe one super in some of these if I don't have the required stat value. And if you get to like 100, like, oh, it's really fast. But like, again, that requires a lot of investment that you're sacrificing elsewhere just to make it feel like somewhat good and normal. I've been hearing people in Crucible matches like, you maybe get one super, but sometimes you don't get any supers in PvP, stuff like that. So it just feels like everything is either purposefully overtuned to the point where it doesn't feel good, or it's just bugged. And some of this stuff feels like literally bugged, and it just feels worse to play. I saw someone call this the go slow update, and it very much feels like that. I think Destiny has been in a great gameplay spot for a very long time now. Like, it has been, for all the ups and downs of content, I've logged in every season and been like, man, this new build is like really cool. Like, they added this, they changed this, they buffed this, there's a cool artifact to do stuff with. I've really had a good time making builds. Now, granted, you have to do some level of rebuilding with like an entirely new armor system, entirely new stat system, but it doesn't feel good. And I wonder when it's going to start feeling good, and if that will be before people are like, why does this feel like shit now? I'm just going to quit. Some of this is like other like new gear bonuses and things that kind of factor into stuff as well. the goal was supposedly to make a broader variety of builds more viable and to offer more customization, but so far to me it feels like less. It feels like you got to super invest in one or two stats to like really go for a specific build, and everything else just horribly suffers like as a result. Maybe once you get to tier 4 or 5 gear, tier 3, it's going to feel less awful, which, you know, is good. But if things are bugged at the lower levels, like, it doesn't matter. Like, you can say all you want, but it shouldn't be like that, straight up. And the same goes for boss health or enemy health or whatever's going on that side. Or lacking player damage, like player numbers don't match the actual damage values if things are going on with crit. And then outside of all this, the sprint bug is still a thing. It all sort of adds up to things not feeling great, and not feeling great sort of randomly. Like, sometimes it's totally fine. Like, legendary campaign in terms of like difficulty is not difficult. Like, it's kind of a slog just generally. And I do think some enemies just feel a little spongy depending on what build you're using. Like, it's not awful, but generally, like, the legendary campaign is okay. But when you start dipping into other activities, even old activities, things just feel significantly worse. And then I think once you get to mythic, things just kind of go off the rails in terms of like how awful it can feel to do some of this content. My concern is how long this will take to fix. You know, things do not usually move terribly fast in Destiny, and if there's something like a widespread bug about general enemy health, or, you know, all cooldowns being broken to some extent, like, you think something's an easy fix, like, oh, just change this 50 to a 70 and be done. Like, things are always more complicated than you think, and the easiest things take the longest, and the hardest things can take the shortest. I just don't want this to be like, yeah, we're going to look at all this, and then the big overhaul to fix things is like when Renegades drops. Like, that is like worst case scenario. You know, I've been pretty negative about most aspects of this release. I'm still pretty negative about it. You know, the one thing I really, really like is the story. I've talked about that before. I know people are really liking at least the format of this raid outside of all the contest shenanigans. So that's good, but it's mostly these systems changes and like how things feel now. I'm going to do a whole thing on the portal. Believe me, God. Okay, we'll go into that at a different time. And I know some people like this, but I'm not feeling the vibes, and I just have a lot of issues with this in a way that I'm going to write about this. Like, this doesn't really even feel like the same game. It just feels like a gutted version of the old game, and it feels so hollow to me. All right, well, I'm branching off past bugs and stuff here, but if things feel weird to you, whether it's damage or cooldowns or whatever, some of these things might be bugged, or some of these things might be overtuned that Bungie reduces eventually. So if you want to hold off on grinding for a little bit until some more information comes out, some things are fixed, you can do that. I don't think this new tweet they came out really, you know, confirms or denies anything or offers a terribly useful amount of information, but I mean, I don't know. It's better than nothing. So let me know what you think about the current state of how the game feels to play. If you played contests, how that feels. I know people were like ready to jump off a cliff, like, based on how the experience went compared to past contests, but I don't know. Some people like it. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.